So back in April of this past year, I saw a guy get killed at my job while at work. This was something that I feel like really changed my life forever. If you've never seen anybody die, or better yet, get killed, it is something that will definitely be with you probably for the rest of your life. It's been almost a year since that's happened, and I still remember exactly every detail of that day. I'll never forget this day back in April, getting to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, having just left work at 2 o'clock in the morning. This was the craziest thing ever, but it's the way it was. It's how we were working back then. Working 16-hour days back to back. We had only left work 2 hours prior to being back at work. Everyone on my crew was running on virtually zero sleep. If you got an hour of sleep between the time that we left and came back, you were lucky. And this wasn't just for my crew. These 16-hour days, these 12-hour days, sometimes 18-hour days were pretty much the regular routine for most employees working at this job. So it's not hard to imagine that everybody who worked there was literally running on fumes every single day that they were there. And some of these people who worked there ran heavy equipment, huge machines, 60-ton lifts, all sorts of forklifts and other equipment. And most of these individuals did this with little to no sleep throughout the week. That was the norm. We got to work at 4 o'clock in the morning and immediately began to pour concrete. The piece of concrete that we poured was inside of a form that stands about 15 to 20 feet tall. My job specifically has me walking on a catwalk 15 to 20 feet in the air, carrying a machine on my back that I use to vibrate concrete and get air pockets out of the concrete. But this was just any other day. The same thing that we do day in and day out, pouring concrete. Each person on the crew just doing their specific job. Some people smooth out the concrete, some people shovel out the concrete from the high spots, putting it in the low spots. Some people are in charge of dumping the concrete. Some people are in charge of finishing the concrete. There's a lot that goes into this process. So again, everyone was just focused on doing their job so that we could get through this pour and hopefully have some sort of a break between the time that we would start our next pour. But as we were up here doing our job, I'll never forget seeing this guy. He worked for the cleanup crew. He was just doing his job. He was carrying a wheelbarrow out of the building, because where we pour our concrete is inside of a building, and there are these huge wide open bay doors on the back of the building. And he was carrying the wheelbarrow full of debris to take this outside of the building to dump in the dumpster. And the last image that I have of this guy alive was him walking with that wheelbarrow, looking up at us as we're up in the air pouring our concrete, and him smiling at us. He was happy and he was alive. He left out of the building and we continued to do our job. But it wasn't 5 minutes later that I noticed, and everyone else on my crew noticed, that everybody was running out of the building, running out toward the back of the building where the huge bay doors are that go out into the yard. And at first we didn't know what was going on. Why is everybody running? And then we start hearing people who are running out of the building saying, oh my God, somebody just got killed. What? I've barely had any sleep at all, if I've had any. And everybody's running out of the building saying somebody just got killed. What? And from where we were standing, 15 to 20 feet in the air, it wasn't hard for us to look straight out through those open bay doors and see this huge machine, a travel lift. 60 tons is what this piece of equipment is capable of lifting up. And to lift one single piece of concrete takes 2 of these huge machines. Tires on these machines up to here, 5 feet tall tires, this wide, big yellow machines that roam back and forth all day and all night throughout the yard, picking up concrete, moving it over here, taking it out of the building after we've poured it. These machines never stop. But as I looked out of the back of the building through those doors, I saw one machine sitting right there in front of the doors, completely stopped. And then right behind the front wheel, this 5-foot tall front wheel that's about 3 feet wide, I see a guy laying right behind the wheel of that machine. His head is right up against the back of that front tire. And he's laying there completely stretched out. And I'll never forget how I couldn't recognize exactly what I was seeing when I was seeing this, because there was something that was on the ground right by his head. And everybody kept saying, "Oh my God, somebody just got killed. Somebody just got killed." And I thought, how did this person get killed? As I'm seeing him laying right there on the ground, his head right up against the back of the front wheel, and this thing sticking up right by his head. As I'm seeing this, I'm trying to comprehend what it is exactly I'm seeing. Okay, I get it. Somebody's down there laying there by that machine. Are they really dead? And what is that by their head? My next thought was, it had to be something that fell from the machine and hit him in the head. It had to be. Did the machine malfunction? Did something fall from the top of the lift and literally hit him in the head and killed him or knocked him out? Is that what this is that I'm seeing? But then after looking at this for a few seconds, I realized that's not the case at all. What I saw right beside his head was actually the wheelbarrow. The wheelbarrow was kicked up, straight up in the air. From where the handles of the wheelbarrow are, the handles were completely broken off and the wheelbarrow was bent almost in half, sticking up right by his head. By this time, everyone is gathering around. There's so many people right there trying to get as close as they can to see who this is and how the hell this actually happened. And then there was this boss, this big boss, this guy who is one of the toughest people I've ever seen work or ever have worked for. I saw this guy go over to where this dead employee was laying at. He knelt down beside him and he took his hard hat off and he threw it on the ground, and he fell apart. He started crying. He was almost hysterical. And then I noticed that there were so many other people who were basically, it was almost like it was a domino effect, because once this guy broke down, this tough, impossibly hard-working person, once they saw him break down, then everybody else started breaking down as well. And I'm not gonna lie, I mean, it tore me up. I knew this guy. This was somebody that I saw on a daily basis. And not only that, I had just seen 5 minutes before, smiling, walking out of the building, carrying this wheelbarrow, just doing his job. And now he laid right behind a machine that's capable of lifting 60 tons of concrete, and he's dead. He's gone. I didn't know how to handle this. I didn't know how to handle the fact that here I'm forced to see and also realize that this job is a job that I could easily lose my life at. That it didn't have to be him who was laying there under that wheel. It could have been me. It could have been anybody. It could have been any single person who worked at this company laying right there where he did. And just thinking that, it disturbed me even more. There was so much commotion going on during all of this, and nobody knew what to do. Because up until this point, nobody had ever been killed at this place, let alone in such a horrific fashion. They went and found something that they could cover this guy up with while they waited for the police and the emergency response people to show up. And all the while, I'm still standing on top of this form, almost in complete shock, with this machine that I used to vibrate air bubbles out of concrete still running, not knowing what to do. It was later found out that this guy who was killed just doing his job was wearing earbuds and listening to music on his phone. But because of those earbuds that were in his ears, he wasn't able to hear the alert on this machine, this beep, 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 that constantly goes off anytime these machines are moving. And still to this day, nobody honestly understands how he didn't see this machine coming at him. These machines don't move fast at all, but they move about 5 miles an hour. And when you're talking about a machine this big and right up on you, 5 miles an hour might as well be too fast. However it happened, it went something like this. This machine has guards outside of the wheels. Those guards are a safety measure in case it does run the risk of hitting someone or something. But in whatever kind of way and however this guy didn't see or hear this machine, he was hit sideways with the guards in front of these tires. And then it was the tires that caught his feet and literally rolled him over from his feet all the way up his body to his head and completely crushed this guy. And for the longest time after this, I couldn't help but visualize what it must have been like for this guy to realize too late that he was being hit by this machine and then rolled over from his feet. When this machine caught his feet, he knew at that moment, I know he knew at that moment, there was nothing he could do. Whether he tried to grab onto those guards in front of those wheels, the crushing weight of that machine moving at 5 miles an hour, there was absolutely nothing he could do to stop it from completely rolling over him. And just as fast as it began, it was ultimately over. He was dead. I had dreams and nightmares about this for so long after this happened. I would actually dream that it was me that was being hit by that machine, thinking the same thing that I just told all of you, that when that machine hit my feet and I tried to grab on and hold on and do everything I possibly could to stop that machine from rolling me completely over, but I couldn't. And right before it completely rolls over me, I wake up in a cold sweat, completely terrified. You never want to see anything like that in your life. I also often wonder how this could have been prevented. I mean, obviously the fact that he had earbuds in played a major role in his death because for whatever reason he couldn't hear the machine, nor did he see it. But sometimes I think, what else could have been done to prevent this guy from being killed? What if somebody had just stopped him to talk to him for like 2 seconds? What if somebody just stopped and was like, "Hey man, I noticed you're smiling. And that's pretty cool, man. It's good that you're having a good day, it seems like." I mean, something like that could have potentially saved this guy's life. But nothing like that happened. And this guy was killed at my job. And I had to deal with that. What's crazy is I wrote a blog about this when this happened. Again, this happened back in April. Back in April, I was obviously doing After Prison Show, trying to get After Prison Show off of the ground. But at the same time, I was running a blog that I had started while I was in prison called joerightshiswrongs.wordpress.com. And I wrote a blog there where I talked about what it was like to actually witness this happening. And because of that, this news reporter reached out to me and asked if I wanted to come on the news. But I couldn't. This had just happened and I was really mentally messed up from this. It's been almost a year now and I handle this a lot better now. I will say though that telling this story again and reliving this day back in April when this happened, it's not pleasant. But I think the ultimate point of this story that I hope people will understand from this is life is precious. And just as quick as it's here, just as quick it can be gone. Just like this individual from my job. I can't emphasize enough when I say at the end of every video, never take one moment for granted. And make the most of every day. Because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And I think I'll end it with that. Enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted. And make the most of every day.